So I was talking with some friends of mine yesterday, Trevor and Minerva. How you doing, guys? And it occurred to me that I felt this way for quite a while, uh, and I'm just kind of at the point where I can no longer really afford to give a fuck if I get the message right, um, or if anybody's gonna even hear it, because I'm seeing certain patterns in the city. I'm watching El Paso, the creative community in El Paso, grow up in certain ways, and and um, and I think that we're hitting a tipping point, or we will be hitting a tipping point very soon, where what was really special about the El Paso creative community is in danger of being lost. And I don't think this is unique to El Paso, but I think that there are unique aspects to El Paso's creative scene that exacerbate this phenomenon. So up until recently, the creative scene in El Paso, and I'm including arts and music and all kinds of literary everything, um, basically all of the things that I've been working with in Glassbox and working toward in Glassbox for the last 20 years. That whole community, up until very recently, has been uh, small and struggling, and because of the lack of outside influence and scrutiny, lack of outside interest, frankly, um, it has it has by necessity been about this camaraderie. It's been about supporting each other, and largely, I'm not talking about every single artist or every single entity that is involved in the creative community here, but by and large, it has been more camaraderie based than it has been competitively based. The pie has simply not been big enough for the cutthroat bullshit that goes on in a lot of other major metropolitan areas. Um, I've lived in Chicago, and I've lived in a couple of other large cities, Houston, Austin, and there's a different dynamic here, uh, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to dig in here. I went to high school here, I went to college here, but beyond that, I I saw that the majority of the people that were moving and shaking in the creative circles in this city were 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 more supportive of each other and more curious about what other people were doing. It wasn't so myopic, it wasn't so self-serving, um, and as it was in other areas. And I really loved that. And I think that we're at a tipping point where the pie is about to get a lot bigger. It's already started to get a lot bigger. And so whenever that happens, uh, it's almost like a gentrification process. The old guard are seen as less hip and relevant, and the new guard is the they're faster, they're more opportunistic, and they don't really care what gets damaged along the way. Um, there's a couple of differences now that I think people aren't appreciating. We've seen this process happen many times, and so we can actually compare notes and see the fallout from that process because of the internet. Everybody likes to talk about the internet as the game changer in so many fields. Well, this is another one of those fields where it's obvious that it's a different animal, and we can look at those things and not see them as inevitabilities. It would be naive to think that the process that I'm talking about is not cyclic in nature. And I don't think that you can get to a steady state probably in any area of life. I mean, it's all a cycle. But you can't get to a point where you just say this is the nature of this community, and it's permanent. There's no permanent state. But I do think that just like all other areas of life, the universe and everything, this is an area where certain characteristics can be championed. And I think that more people in this community need to realize what's on the chopping block at this point. And so I've kind of I've wanted to delve into all of this YouTube stuff. A lot of the people that I work with, I've talked to them about how to do this, and I've gone down a couple of different dead end roads. And maybe it just comes down to this. I mean, the real bottom line is that if we see stuff that is happening in the world, and we don't say we don't at least try to call attention to the good things that are being trampled on, or the bad things that need to be fought against, then we're doing ourselves and each other a huge disservice. And that fear of not saying it right, or of being attacked by some unscrupulous lying sack of shit out there, which has happened and will continue to happen, that fear is anti-life. And I don't need to put way too fine a point on it, but it is important, and it does matter. There's an entire generation coming into existence of artists that are going to think, this is the way the world is. Well, it may be the way the world is, or it may be the way the world should be, or it may be the way the world should not be. And that's the last generation, my generation. That's our job, to at least contribute a verse to that cycle, and say, as you're going through this process of coming into your own strengths as a generation, understand that the greatest art and the greatest artists are focused on the greatest degree of humanity,